Hey everybody, welcome back to Backlog Banter. I'm your boy Abram, joined as usual by my auditorially assaulted co-host Tucker Hazel. We are here today to talk about our most anticipated games of 2022. But before we even give the plugs, here's what I want to say.
Okay.
Here's what I want to say, Tucker. This is a year full of very compelling releases, right?
True.
But
I don't think anyone disagree.
Last year, maybe some people disagreed if that year was full of anticipated games, much like the two of us. So if you want to hear our thoughts about last year before you look ahead, be sure to check out our discussion about whether or not 2021 was a soft year. It's very, very good.
It's a great discussion.
Well, actually, Tucker's editing, so he'll put a card in the corner because I don't know how to do that. Yeah. I only just learned how to use the end screen. But now it's time for the plugs. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell. But most importantly, join the Discord.
Yeah.
Because I want more friends. So come talk to us about your most anticipated games. I think that'd be kind of neat.
Truly. But we also do have information of the people from our Discord about their most anticipated games, which we will be discussing at the end of this video. So if you want to hear what other people that aren't knuckleheads like us have to say about their 2022 most anticipated games, stick around. Why won't you?
I actually forgot about that. So another reason you should join the Discord is we have more memorable people in there.
That's true.
You know? But Tucker, we're here. We're both going to give our top 10. I'm going to make a bold claim right now. I think that there will only be 3 games overlapped on our lists. That's my claim. That I'm staking my claim.
Yeah, right, no, that sounds reasonable, and I think I could probably predict exactly which ones they are.
Yes. Do you want to give any honorable mentions before we begin?
I have a whole stack. I made a full list of like 20 plus different games that I'm interested in this year, and any capacity, just to make sure that I keep them in my little mental zeitgeist.
Of course.
But not making the list are 2 that we're not even sure we're coming out this year. Probably not. Overwatch 2 and Final Fantasy 16. Those games are probably not coming out this year, but they're, permanently in the ether. I'm interested in Ghostwire Tokyo. I'm interested in Oxenfree 2. I'm interested in Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope, Bayonetta 3, and Stray. And Starfield, but that's sort of a large enough thing that it's sort of its own category.
Stray is a very good poll, because I'm excited for that one too, but I forgot it exists because they're like, hey, here's this cool Cyberpunk cat game, and now you get to know nothing else about it.
That's a great point.
I want to give 2 honorable mentions. I want to give an honorable mention to Breath of the Wild sequel, because we're not doing 2023 games in this video. And I want to give an honorable mention to everything Xbox Studios is releasing onto Game Pass, because I'll probably try it.
Sure. I guess that does count, except for Rainbow Six Extraction, of course.
Yeah, sure. But Xbox Studios. If it's some dumb fuck Ubisoft co-op shooter, it's not gonna happen.
That's a good point.
Sorry, Yves Guillemot. But Tucker, do you want to go first with your number 10? You want me to go?
I just listed more games than you, so I'm going to begrudgingly allow you to go first.
Thank you. I'm gonna hit you. Tucker, I've got 2 games.
Are these ranked? Yes,
these are ranked.
Okay.
These are ranked. 2 games attached to multimedia licensees, and I want to talk about my first one here, and that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. I think this game looks absolutely lovely. For people who aren't familiar, it's basically Turtles in Time, the classic arcade and SNES beat 'em up, but modernized by Tribute Games, who recently did Panzer Paladin, which is quite a cool game. I got to see that at PAX and talk to their developers. So it's a game that's in good hands. It's a game with beautiful pixel art, and it's a genre I'm starting to get into a little bit. I talked about trying out River City Girls, and we both love Streets of Rage 4. So this looks super, super cool, especially because ever since I was a little kid, TMNT has been one of my favorite properties. And it's been a long fucking time since a TMNT game of any repute.
I would say a TMNT thing of anything. I mean, I frankly, I can't remember the last time the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were actually in the cultural zeitgeist. Probably before we were born, frankly.
What's funny, much like the Turtles themselves, they exist in the sewers of pop culture, because I believe that actually the Turtles comics are very good, but I can't read.
Yeah, but those aren't in the cultural zeitgeist.
Right, that's why they're underneath it. They're in the sewers. But that's my number 10 game, TMNT Shredder's Revenge. It was supposed to be last year, so I'm hoping it'll end up being early this year when it finally drops.
My number 10 is Chia, which we saw at a PlayStation showcase of some version, the one where Wolverine was announced, I believe. And it just looks really slick and smooth. It's got this great idea of taking sort of the capture mechanic of Super Mario Odyssey, but transitioning it into larger open worlds, transitioning between the creatures that you're taking over, some more RPG elements, more exploration. I think the game, I'm not completely sold on like the character models and that kind of stuff, but I do think the environments look interesting enough, that gameplay hook is interesting enough to me that I'm very much looking forward to at least hoping this game is good. And if it is, then I'll certainly give it a try.
Yeah, it seems like PlayStation's kind of pushing it. I believe we saw it at 2 different showcases. Game Awards. It was a PlayStation showcase and then Game Awards.
Yes.
But that looks pretty compelling. I think I'll probably yoink that off of your PlayStation account and give it a shot.
Sure.
But number 9 is a game that is both going to get Backlog Banter canceled and probably only be on my most anticipated games of the year list, and that is 6 Days in Fallujah. My number 9 is 6 Days.
I thought we were going to cancel it, but I don't think it's going to be true.
No, some other people will try, but we'll get canceled, or I will, for being excited to play it. I think 6 Days in Fallujah has fucking mountain of controversy behind it. People are interested in a little bit of light reading about the Iraq War, but
it's either light in content or a depth.
No,
that was a little joke.
But I think that the notion, whether or not the game ends up being a tasteless disaster or a really thoughtful military shooter, I think trying to do something with the first-person shooter beyond the blockbuster Call of Duty, low stakes, action film that we usually get out of the genre, something like this, I think, could be quite compelling if handled properly. Now,
of course.
Whether or not it will be, we'll see.
Of course. Here's the thing. I am interested in this game. Yes. I don't have it on my list because we have not heard about it for almost a year at this point. It will probably come out this year, but we don't know that for sure. And so frankly, it wasn't really in my mindset for 2022 games. But I'm also interested in this game because of the controversy, because it's trying something different, not because the game sounds like we don't know what the gameplay is going to be like. We don't know what the structure is really going to be like. This is an enigma and a half, and it's fascinating because of that. But for basically no other reason.
I think we've got talented developers here at I think it's Highwire's name of the team. It's the ex Bungie devs and various people. It's quite a veteran team tackling the project, which of course, if people remember, was canceled way far in the past, but it's being revived. So I'm really interested and excited to give this game a proper shot and to buy it and sit down with it and see what it actually is, opposed to what it's being built up as by 2 different and equally motivated groups of people. So
100%. The most current information I see is that release of Q4 2022, which could be just placeholder end of the year 2022 nonsense, or I can't find specifically where that came from, but Q4 this year is
so the thing about it is it was supposed to be Q4 of this year, or of 2021. My bad, I'm still adjusting, give me time. But then they delayed it to just 2022. So I assume we'll see it sometime this year.
Highwire Games does not even have a Wikipedia page.
Part of the reason they delayed it is because they've got an influx of both talent and funding. So it's a bigger project in scope and fidelity than it was before. So we'll see.
Let's shift to the very similar game. Kirby and the Forgotten Land shares everything controversy, content, and tone wise with 6 Days in Fallujah, because this game looks fucking decrepit and everything's falling down and everyone's dead and Kirby is dead and Dee Dee's shot in the head. Man. But Kirby and the Forgotten Land is the first time the Kirby series has tried something, and I'm very excited to have it finally be experimental in a substantial way. And I think it looks very good visually. It looks more inspired map design wise, and a 3D Kirby game has always been up in the top of my mind of I really need this to happen. And guess what? Like 2 months from now, not even, we'll have it in our hands.
Yeah, you can't steal my moment. Fuck you. So we'll talk about that one later.
Yeah.
We'll move ahead to my number 8, which is a little game from Finji, and that is Tunic.
I need to put that on my list in the honorable mentions.
Sure, yeah.
Honorable mentions.
Tunic is basically 2D and 3D Zelda merged together as this isometric adventure game starring a fox, but very much with the gameplay loop of Zelda. It really is Zelda with a fox. That's really what it is. But I think what's compelling about it is not only the softness of its art style, but the ways that it merges those 2 different styles of Zelda, as I was saying, into something with combat that's a little bit more lock on and roll heavy, like you might find in a Wind Waker or something, but still with the emphasis on puzzle solving that you might find in 2D Zelda. I got to play it both at PAX, but then also the demo that was released at home during one of the Xbox demo events. And I really I'm certain that this game is going to be quite special. I love its presentation. I love its concept.
Yeah.
And it's coming very, very soon. I think March 15th. So
somewhere around there. Yeah. It's definitely
2 thumbs up for that
coming soon. And that's one I slipped my memory, but not because I'm not very excited for it, which I certainly am. And because of how interested you are in it, I'm sure it's going to be one you beat, which doesn't happen very often. So I'm sure we'll be able to do a review of it, which is very exciting for me.
Yeah, I really can't wait for it.
Moving on to something that I really only have interest in because every time I see it, I go, ooh, which is Forspoken, a game that really has no concrete reason why I would like it that much. I've never played an open world Square game. I haven't even played that many Square games. This IP is entirely new, which is exciting in its own right, but the quality of the graphics and the animation and the variety and the combat and the movement, it just hooks me immediately. From as you see that the first thing we saw of this game was this 4 or 5 second just clip on Twitter or something from the Forspoken team, and it was flying over these dunes with these trails of light flying behind you. It's like, that looks pretty interesting. And then we got greater gameplay, more open world stuff. The character in the world could be interesting, but I don't really know. But this one, I don't hear a lot of people talking about, and frankly, I'm sure it'll fly under the radar unless it's great. But it does look very exciting visually.
Yeah, I mean, this is Final Fantasy 15. I believe it's Team Luminous is the name of their team. This is their first game since FF15, right? So that by its own merit,
for a while,
yeah, that by its own merit is exciting. Being a new IP from Square Enix is exciting.
Yeah.
I don't know. The game really does nothing for me. Sure. However, as you're saying, it is very fluid and it does have a visual identity to it. And so if it moves and plays as well as it seems, I might give it a shot. But that's more of a wait and see for me right now. Yeah. My number 7 is not a wait and see at all. It's actually a game I'm anticipating, believe it or not, in our video about our most anticipated games. And that is Splatoon 3.
Splatoon. Guess what? My number 7 is Splatoon 3.
That's my bet. You can't steal that. So Splatoon is, I think, Nintendo's single greatest revelation since Splatoon 1 was introduced. I love this franchise. I love this. Like, what I'm saying is nothing.
Splatoon 1 is their greatest revolution.
Yes.
I thought you were trying to say Splatoon 3 is their greatest revolution since Splatoon 1.
No, it's actually very iterative, which is why it's kind of hanging a little bit lower down on my list.
Yeah.
But I love this world. I love this gameplay. It is the archetype of Nintendo putting their own spin on a genre, this time being the online shooter.
Yeah.
And so I think it looks quite lovely. But like I said, it does look very iterative. So what I'm super excited about more than the multiplayer is actually the story mode, which looks like it's either going to be bigger in scope or at least wackier in ideas, because what we've seen with the Upside Down Eiffel Tower and the weird fuzzy guys, it looks quite charming, like a great expansion of that lore.
The Manimals? No, the Mammalians. The Return of the Mammalians, some shit like that. But yeah, Splatoon 3 is one of my most anticipated games of the year. It's probably Nintendo's third biggest game of the year because Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out this year. And I'm very excited to see what this team does with what we hope will be a very fully fleshed out launch. Both Splatoon 1 and 2 had varying degrees of, this feels like it's missing something, even though this is a great game. But now that they've had 2 oopsies that did very well, but 2 oopsies under their belt, I think that this one will carry a lot more punch with it as it releases. And of course, Splatoon, iterative. What we're looking for are those small things being changed, and those small things being substantial enough and interesting enough to carry this being a sequel, as opposed to an expansion for Splatoon 2 or whatever. Of course, this is coming pretty soon after Splatoon 2. I have 5 years, but I mean, I get that's not actually that says there's a short amount of time between 1 and 2. But yes, very excited for this game. It looks great, and I'm very interested to see what else it adds.
Yeah. So my number 6 now is another game I had to play last year and quite enjoyed, and that's Ollie Ollie World. This is a really wacky and out there arcade skateboarding platformer. This is the third Ollie Ollie title, but this one is much greater in scope and much more distinct in personality than OlliOlli and OlliOlli 2. I believe World Tour, I forget what the subtitle was, but then those games were.
That was Mario Golf.
That's a great point. I didn't play them because they didn't do.
Welcome to Hollywood.
That's what it is. Those games didn't do for me what World is doing, which is taking skateboarding, something I do in real life not very well, and pairing it with this just sense of place that is so eclectic. And I got to interview one of the guys over at Roll7 last year and hearing more about the creative process and the ways that they're trying to integrate skate culture into this world that feels like one part Nintendo, one part Ghibli, just like a bunch of stuff thrown together with this unique vibe and these really satisfying mechanics. Absolutely can't wait for it. And so February 8th, sorry, Sifu, you picked a bad release date.
Oh, I didn't realize it was releasing that soon, frankly.
Yeah, but I cannot wait for OlliOlli World.
Yeah. I'll give it a try off your Nintendo account, more than likely. But coming up next, my number 6 slot is one that is highly anticipated by quite a few people because it's the first entry in this series was one of the biggest games of its generation. I'm talking about God of War Ragnarok, a game that, much like Splatoon 3, is looking to be very iterative in terms of how it's building on its original. However, this one does have the strength of being based off a story-driven experience. And the end of God of War 1 puts you in a very interesting place of how will the story go next. And I do think that this team obviously knows quite what they're doing. They made a fantastic game in the original. And this, I haven't seen anything of this game in particular that makes it look leagues better than the original. But if it's even just a few gameplay tweaks and a very interesting story, it's still going to be a phenomenal game. So I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Even if this is just more God of War 2018, it's just more of Game of the Year 2018.
Yeah.
So it's like, for me, because I wasn't crazy about God of War, doesn't do a whole lot for me, but clearly Santa Monica knows what they're fucking doing. So this is going to be probably a more tighter, polished, to the bone God of War experience. Even though it's rumored to be longer, I think they'll probably trim out some of the fat of that game. And
sure,
we'll see. I'm willing to be interested enough to give God of War 2018 another go and maybe push.
Sure,
them, but we'll find.
That would be very interesting. I don't think it'll happen. I'd love for you to spite me and prove me wrong, though.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried it 3 times. I think it's just not for me. But number 5 for me is Starfield. Starfield is a game in which we have seen a sandwich and a release date, and that's not a joke. And you made that joke before, and I just stole it from you. But
I don't actually think I made that joke.
You made the sandwich joke somewhere, but we released so much we released an unholy amount of content, so I would never really trace that thought back down. But the point is, I have come to really enjoy the Western RPG in recent years. The most critical examples being the Outer Worlds, which I thought was excellent, and Cyberpunk, which should have been one of my favorite games of all time, but ended up being kind of a disaster in spite of how much I enjoyed it.
It's still one of your favorite games of all time.
Yeah, but it should be in the top 10.
Yeah.
But it's probably like the top 30. But Starfield is Bethesda's first opportunity to move beyond Skyrim and Fallout 3 as their legacy, right? And so if you take the Bethesda Western RPG playbook, you modernize it and you put it in a science fiction setting, that says like one part retro futuristic and one part just traditional futuristic, I think it's going to be really quite exceptional. And I'm super excited to give it a shot. And it's definitely, I think, the most exciting Xbox Game Studios Game of the Year. And I think the first one's going to illustrate how pivotal these huge publisher deals have been and will be for Microsoft.
Yeah, I'm very excited to try Starfield. I am a big Skyrim fan, which I know is something that you don't have the experience with. I've also played a good enough amount of Fallout 4 to know that I enjoyed that game's open world and storytelling and that kind of stuff. But I've never gotten involved in a Bethesda RPG as it releases. And Starfield is, I think it's their first, this team's first new IP in like since we were born or some ridiculous shit like that.
But yes.
So that it's very exciting from that regard. But I just can't for the life of me put this on my anticipated games list because they refuse to show us anything. Like this size and scope of game, we should have gotten gameplay 2 years ago, and that would have felt natural. And they would have so much stuff to show. So, but there's no way this game is bad, but I mean, I guess there's a
well,
chance.
To be fair, Tucker, Fallout 4 was revealed at E3 and released October of that year.
Yeah, and to be fair, Abram Beater, this game was announced at E3 2017 and released 5 years later.
Yeah, but what my point there is that I don't think the lack of gameplay is concerning. I think this game was just obviously announced way too fucking early.
Oh, well, of course. I don't disagree with that. Yeah. No. Oh, moving on from that nonsense to more nonsense. Horizon Forbidden West. If you had told me 2 weeks ago that this would be more anticipated than God of War Ragnarok, I would have laughed in your fucking face. But having just completed Horizon Forbidden Dawn, Horizon Zero Dawn, I'm very interested in this game from a story standpoint, which is something I could not attest to before. And this game is very clearly taking the gameplay in a stronger direction. Yeah. And so that's very exciting. Obviously, taking advantage of next-gen hardware, looking a lot more visually polished, looking a lot more fluid, removing some of the jank, having more interesting exploration and movement and combat. It looks like a pretty categorical upgrade in every physical sense. It's just yet to be seen if the story is as interesting, because what the first one did so well is reveal a backstory that was fascinating. I don't know if they can do that again, but if they can make me really compelled by the quote unquote modern day storytelling and find a new way to recontextualize the past that this world is built on, this could be easily one of the games of the year.
Yeah, no, I think it certainly will be. And like I said, this one is actually speaking to me.
Yeah.
The fact that I didn't like the gameplay of Horizon Zero Dawn means that I'm not most anticipating Forbidden West, but it's certainly going to be the first game that gets me to turn on my PS5 since Deathloop, I think. But number 4, Tucker, is a game that is probably too low for you, but for me, that's Pokemon Legends Arceus. By the time this video releases, we're either 3 days or 1 day away from release, so pretty much right away this one is gonna pay off. But there's nothing I could say here that we haven't said already. This is the Pokemon game we've been waiting for fucking 15 years. So if you want to hear me talk more about this, go just look up our Pokemon content. There's too much of it.
Yeah, we haven't talked about this game in a while, frankly.
Yeah.
But that's really because we kind of knew what this game was going to be from its reveal trailer, and it hasn't been substantially expanded upon in my opinion. But the game is very soon. Yeah. And everything I've heard about it from, not that I've looked up the leaks, but people saying that the leaks sound good. This game is very exciting for me. We'll get to it.
Yeah.
My number 4 is a game that's coming out this year, which is Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel. This is going to be one of the big games of the year, no doubt. And it's kind of the parallel to Forbidden West in a lot of ways. Obviously, those two original games very heavily compared. But this I'm very excited for because I know I like Breath of the Wild gameplay, but not because anything they've shown is particularly exciting.
Yes.
The opposite of Horizon is, okay, I like Zero Dawn, but I'm very interested because they've shown me the substantial gameplay upgrades. Right. But I believe in a sequel to this game enough that I'm sure it'll be fantastic. And I don't think it's out of the realm of ridiculousness for me to say that I'm anticipating the sequel to Breath of the Wild.
No, I don't think it is either. I'm waiting for them to win me over, and they just haven't yet. So we'll see. Hopefully, when they actually blow it out, I'll be excited. But I'm biding my time on this one.
Abram's using bide. He's like a cricket tot in many ways.
Tucker,
I think if you jiggle him a little bit, his antenna goes dong dong dong.
Something goes dong dong dong. That's all I'll say, Tucker. My number 3 is a game that doesn't belong on this list, but it's my list, so fuck you. And that's Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh, sure. Yeah, why not?
So
I'll allow it.
So this
I can't stop it.
Yeah, it's too late. This year, we are getting the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X native versions of Cyberpunk 2077.
We'll see.
Well, here's the thing. It was supposed to be tail end of last year.
Yeah.
They delayed it to the beginning of this year, with The Witcher coming later. Sure. It's a sort of situation where they can't afford to not do this.
Of course.
So it's going to happen. I have almost certain confidence that this next gen version is going to come out. I have less confidence.
Well, I'm sure it's going to come out. I agree.
In this year, I mean to say. What I have less confidence about is whether or not it is going to radically fix the game the way that it needs to. However, this is the chance to. You do not get a third chance, right? But in this case, I think they get a second. Whether or not they deserve it is up for debate. But in the console space, this is their chance to apologize and to set the record straight. And if they're able to, if the game is able to run and feel the way that I wish it did, then I'm going to be over the fucking moon, because I played Cyberpunk and loved it, but only did the main storyline because I did not have the bandwidth to get invested in the side content and richness of a world like this if the game was not stable enough to support it. So assuming that it is, it's a done deal.
It's a fucking meat and potatoes, you know what I'm saying? This better fucking release this year. It better release soon. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe is something I've been waiting on with bated breath to have any information on. And Crows is a huge meme. They're a small company. They know that they're taking a long time, and they love mentioning that. So it's probably been my the least worried I've ever been for a game getting delayed, because I trust that team, and they seem to have a sense of self-referentialness in their updates, where they're like, yep, game's not coming out, fuck you. And I'm like, all right, you know what, take your time, it's going to release. And the Stanley Parable is one of my favorite games of all time, and this is ostensibly the improved sequel to it, even though it's an expansion. It's a whole kit and caboodle. It's very unique, and this better release soon.
I am 100% going to play it when it comes out, because you love this game. I don't really know what it is, and I kind of want to keep it that way. And then I want to play the best version of it.
I think we had this exact same discussion last year, by the way.
Probably.
In our most anticipated of 2021.
Yeah. Number 2 for me is Kirby and Forgotten Land.
Yeah. Of course
I think that Kirby needs this innovation more than Pokemon does.
Yeah.
I think, as I was saying in the Discord, Pokemon is stagnant, but it's still consistently fantastic.
Yeah.
Right. Oh. Even when the games miss a little bit, that core formula is still so great. Right. Yeah. You can just give me a new Pokedex, and even if the game ends up being collect 8 badges as a story, but it doesn't really matter, do the post game, that's still a great gameplay loop.
Yeah.
Even in the case of Kirby Planet Robobot, which I played earlier this year and thought was perhaps the best Kirby game, it was bogged down by the fact that we're doing 2D Kirby again in the same way, right? And so taking Kirby and putting him in the context of what is now more clearly like 3D world style levels.
I'm just thinking about taking Kirby and putting him in the context of 1994 gameplay finally. When the N64 released.
Yeah, it's certainly overdue, but I think it's going to be a wonderful way to see the sort of loose DNA of Kirby, of looking for collectibles, of exploration-driven platforming in the context of an environment that allows you to actually do that exploration in a more free-thinking way. At the same time, I love this idea of this new central town that you expand, and the ways that the side games actually feed into that. This really does 100%. Seem like this is what Kirby always could have been. It's what we're finally getting, right?
100%.
Cannot wait. Absolutely cannot wait. It is by far and away my most anticipated Nintendo game of the year.
Yeah. Elden Ring is I think the most anticipated game of the last. I think there's a special echelon of anticipation for games. You got Halo 3, Cyberpunk, Death Stranding, and Elden Ring. I think those are kind of in this top like legendary tier of anticipation, and everything that Elden Ring has going for it from a writing standpoint and a development standpoint, and the history of the development team standpoint is all great. And then you actually take a look at the gameplay, which is a substantial difference from the previous titles. And I mean, it's hard to say it's a done deal because the game hasn't released, but this game does have everything going for it. And I'm every time I think about this game, I'm like,
you're close. You're fucking close to Elden Ring. I think I'll leave this one for you to enjoy, but I'd be very curious to see if it, because the premise of taking the From games and putting them in open world, it gives me almost like Zelda 1 vibes in terms of in terms of like let's have like this fantasy world and get, based on what I know about the From games, make it about environment, like player driven exploration, and non-linearity. I think it's going to be really cool for fans of From.
So. Yeah, and I think the reason that this also enters that sort of legendary tier is because it does appear to be the more accessible From game. We've spent 5 From games now being like, this is not accessible. You're not supposed to play this. It's in this special tier for fans of this series who want to get their face kicked in. But the open format of this will probably change the pacing enough to be I guarantee this will be the most popular From game when it released and sell the best and receive not the widest critical acclaim. Of course, we don't know if the game's going to be good yet, but I do think more people are going to be trying this game and getting into the From Software formula than ever have before.
Yeah, we'll see. I think I'll be curious. I almost feel like they might have reached a critical mass already between Sekiro and Dark Souls 3 and everything, but it's quite possible that I'm wrong. Sure. I certainly hope I am. So we'll find out. My most anticipated game of the year is Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. Yeah, this should come as no great surprise, as I proclaimed it last week, as of the time that you're watching this, in my 22-minute breakdown of their 6-minute gameplay overview trailer. But what this game I was always excited for it. I was always excited for another Lego Star Wars game. But my excitement was kind of hyperbolic to an extent of like, sure, you know what? It's gonna be more Lego Star Wars. The IP is gonna carry it. It's gonna be great, but it's gonna be more Lego. But that overview trailer, it was like, no, this is not just more Lego.
Yeah, it's something substantially different.
It's substantially different to the point where it's ostensibly almost a like open world third-person Star Wars action game. It just happens to be in the context of Lego minifigures, right? Mm-hmm. Between the combat changes, the open world maps, the ground-to-air explorations, the side quests, it's outrageous how they've expanded the Lego formula, and because of that, I'm over the moon. In April 5th, just start. Come April 6th, start 2023. It's over.
Yeah, I'll hold you to your word. You are not allowed to play any games that release after April 6th.
I would get Kirby, Pokemon, and Star Wars by then, and Tunic, and Ollie Ollie.
Yeah, you'd have to sacrifice Splatoon, but you know what? Maybe it's worth
it.
Starfield.
I know one cares Starfield. No, good point. Give me your number one. I wonder what it could be.
My number one is Pokemon Legends Rcs, and I don't think there's really any, there's not to say about this, but this game is peculiar for so many reasons, but namely because it's releasing so soon after a negative Pokemon experience, at least for the two of us. But this does seem to be steps in a direction that I've always wanted. It does seem like the most substantial change to the Pokemon formula, and they are seeming to consider it to be more mainline than maybe I would have expected. They recently released this, which Pokemon games released when did you start it sort of thing, and it's every mainline Pokemon game and their sequels and remakes and all that, and that is an interesting, sort of subtle sign that this is going to have a lot more focus put on it in terms of maybe this being a new direction for the franchise. And that's something that, maybe we weren't really thinking of as much before. It was always a possibility, but this sort of cements it in a place of power for the biggest media franchise on the planet, and in a place of power in my own heart, because I love Pokemon quite a bit. And this seems like the most, obviously most ambitious Pokemon game ever. So there's no two bones about it.
Yeah, this could conceivably be one of my 10 favorite games of all time.
Yes.
But the problem, Tucker, is that it releases so soon. And so it kind of feels like if you had a son and they're like, hey, like a drug addicted son, like, hey, I'm going to rehab. And you see them like leave the house for the rehab center, but you don't know if they're actually going to go, I would call this a misguided analogy at best. But the point is, we're so close, but I feel like we have no confirmation that what we're hoping is actually reality.
Yeah, and presumably we'll have that confirmation by the time this video is released. The reviews will be up. People have the game already, which is fucking classic Pokemon. But we'll see, man.
See, the tricky thing is people have the game, but it's not reviewers. It's people who have broken Street Date copies. Yeah. Remember, BDSP reviews did not go up before release. They put those codes out last fucking minute, or I guess a couple of reviewers crunched and got reviews up, but for the most part.
Oh no, that's a good point. Yeah.
The codes were really late. I really think we're gonna fly blind next Friday.
But we are gonna fly regardless, because there's no fucking way that January 28th comes around and you and I aren't playing the most ambitious Pokemon game ever released.
Let's fucking try January 27th at midnight, Tucker.
I like how you think.
Is that it?
Yeah, we did it.
No, we didn't. We have to do community. Oops.
Oh, Christ. I forgot about them.
Yeah,
I'll pull it up. I'll pull it up.
No, I'll pull it up.
BLB submissions.
Jamie, pull that shit up. Jamie.
The first one, who has one game, comes from our friend Daniel Navaroli in the Discord. He says his most anticipated game is Starfield, and you know what? That's reasonable.
Daniel, we're in the same ballpark. Andrew goes next, and Andrew. Now Andrew gave us a list here. I don't know how I feel about that, but I'm going to read them out anyway, Tucker. I'll oblige him this favor. He is, after all, the co-host of Backlog Banter's most successful program, My Star Wars Show.
Yeah, of course. Everyone loves it.
Andrew says, my hype games for the year are Triangle Strategy, Horizon Forbidden West, Legends Arceus, Starfield, Neon White, Ayuden Chronicle, Metal Slug Tactics, Digimon Survive, Marvel's Midnight Suns, Final Fantasy 16, hopefully this year, and Baron Breakfast.
Now, you'll notice that only 3 of those made either of our lists, but that's a very exciting thing because obviously this year is very, very packed and there's a lot of interesting stuff, speaking to a lot of different people. And I don't think I'll play any of those other ones.
See, going to that list, I want to give Triangle Strategy a shot, but what I really want to do is play Final Fantasy Tactics. So I'll probably play Final Fantasy Tactics instead.
How are you going to do that?
I believe it's on Wii U Virtual Console, the GBA version.
Oh, okay. And I've heard that's the better version. Actually.
Yeah, which is completely reasonable. Baron Breakfast is cute. I think I'll probably give that one a shot. But then the other big one on this list that I'm quite interested in, not sold on yet, but quite interested in, is Marvel's Midnight Suns.
Yeah, that's an interesting one to me. I'm not going to worry about it until if it releases and people say it's actually really good, then why not? Other than Mayan Rabbids, never tried that kind of tactical gameplay. So
you should try Fire Emblem.
Aren't those different? Like, there's different kinds of tactical role-playing games.
There's different kinds, but they basically.
This is literally the XCOM team.
Yeah, it's literally.
It's an XCOM game.
Yes,
with Blade and Ghost Rider.
Tucker.
Oh, it's my turn.
Take us to Sarah.
Our friend Sarah in the Discord says that her most anticipated games are Elden Ring, Breath of the Wild 2, Weird West, which I have not heard about actually, Bayonetta 3, which I'm also excited for, as I said,
yes,
and Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. Also really hyped for the Katana Zero DLC and Hollow Knight Silksong if it was actually come out this year. Now, I'm fully convinced that Hollow Knight Silksong is a government plant, the conspiracy that was never real. But I'm glad you're excited for all those.
Bomb Rush Cyberpunk could be fun. I love the idea of really loving Jet Set Radio, but as I said when we talked about it on BLB, it's just a little too clumsy for me in the gameplay department. So if that gets cleaned up in Bomb Rush, I'm more than happy to give that a shot. I think that could be quite wild. Our next comment here comes from, and I think actually the last one before we started to mull over whether or not Breath of the Wild 2 is going to release this year, comes from Franz, who says, what does he say here? Is any of this what we asked for?
I'm gonna assume that he means Kirby. Look, he's excited for Kirby, Splatoon, Zelda, and 10 other games being announced this year. And then he also has predictions, which is not what
these aren't really Franz.
Like, he's generally excited and hoping for things to happen. It appears.
I think, you know what? Amen to that. But Tucker, now I think that's everything.
Yeah, just doing a quick scan.
Because then we're just doing we're just swapping some spit about whether or not this game, Breath of the Wild 2, is going to release this year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Nope, you know what I'm saying?
We're good. We're good.
You know
we're done. Oh, you don't edit your own shit, but like.
No. Well, actually, sometimes I do. Sometimes I'll stand up and look down in the toilet bowl and, futz around a little bit. I've always been a fan of manually unplugging a toilet.